Most of you spend your entire lives looking at the wrong side of your paycheck. You think the problem is how much your boss deposits into your account. But the forbidden truth is that if I gave you $1 million today, you'd just end up a poor person wearing more expensive clothes. The mistake you're making right now, the one that will keep you broke until you're 80, is trying to look rich before you actually are. It's the logic of inversion. While you focus on earning more, you ignore the holes in your own bucket. And the third pillar I'm going to show you shortly is the only secret that separates millionaire janitors from debt-ridden surgeons. If you don't understand this, it doesn't matter what your salary is. You've already lost the game. I've seen people earning $10,000 a month borrowing money just to pay their property taxes, while I've seen people earning minimum wage live in their own homes, entirely debt-free. You believe wealth is a straight line that begins with a raise or a winning lottery ticket, but the mathematical reality is that wealth is what stays, not what enters. If you spend 100% of what you earn, you aren't a worker. You are a luxury slave to your own lack of discipline. Think of the stories of those families who inherited colossal fortunes at the turn of the 20th century and are now scrubbing floors just to survive. Look at what happened in 1929. There were men who owned railroads and banks, men who walked Wall Street as if they were gods. When the dust settled and stock prices plummeted into the gutter, these men had no liquidity. They had mansions, they had expensive paintings, and they had debt. They didn't have what remained. They only had what appeared to be. Many of them chose financial and physical suicide, jumping from windows because they couldn't stand the thought of no longer being seen as the wealthiest man on the block. They were slaves to appearance. Imagine yourself now, sitting at your kitchen table. It's 2 a.m. and the lights are off because you're trying to save on the utility bill. The coffee in your cup is cold and bitter, the smell of cheap grounds hanging in the air. You look at your phone screen and see your bank statement. The number is in the red. Your heart races, the sweat on your forehead is cold and clammy. You feel that knot in your stomach, a pressure rising in your throat because you know the rent is due tomorrow and you spent the money on a new phone just so you wouldn't feel inferior to your co-workers. That is the abyss. It's the feeling of being swallowed by a machine that you yourself fed. Let's talk about real numbers, without the makeup of the brokerage firms. If you earn $2,000 and spend it all, in 10 years you have zero. If you earn $10,000 and spend $10,000, in 10 years you have zero and probably high blood pressure. Now, if you earn $2,000 and manage to set aside $200 a month, you are on the path to survival. In the first year, you have $2,400 saved, plus interest, which at this stage is insignificant. In the second year, you have nearly $5,000. By the 10th year, this small, steady flow, if well invested, begins to create critical mass. Math doesn't lie. If you put away $500 a month at a 10% annual rate, in year 1 you have over $6,000. By year 10 you have over $100,000. By year 30 you've passed the $1 million mark. The problem is that you are too stupid to wait 30 years. You want the gratification now. You want to bleed your future to buy a plastic present. Your brain is sabotaging you by making you buy things you don't need, with money you don't have, to impress people you don't even like. This is basic primate biology. We evolved on savannas, where being the strongest or the most ornamental guaranteed reproduction. But in the modern financial market, this peacock instinct is the shortest path to the middle-class cemetery. You feel a visceral need to show success. Social envy is the engine of your ruin. Think of the tulip mania in 17th century Holland. Intelligent people, doctors, lawyers, and sailors, traded their homes and inheritances for a single flower bulb. Why? Because the neighbor was getting rich fast, and they couldn't stand the idea of appearing poorer. They entered a collective delusion that ended in absolute misery for an entire nation. Today, the tulips are the cars financed for 72 months and the designer clothes that cost a month's wages. The diagnosis is simple and painful. Your brain is a search engine for status that ignores long-term survival. You are programmed to be a terrible investor because you seek the comfort of the herd. If everyone is buying, you buy. If everyone is spending, you spend. You're afraid of being the guy who lives in a simple house and drives an old car while investing the rest. But it is exactly that guy who will buy your company when you are desperate for a retirement that will never come. Imagine the scene. You're at a family dinner. Your cousin arrives in a new car. The leather smells fresh. The shine of the paint reflects the streetlights. Everyone praises him. You feel that sting of envy, a heat rising up your neck. You look at your used car and feel like a loser. What you don't see is the stack of debt in his glove compartment. The interest eating up 40% of his income, and the fact that he hasn't slept in 3 days worrying about the next payment. You, on the other hand, have $10,000 invested. It doesn't look like much, but it's your trench. It's what keeps you from falling into the pit. But your brain ignores security and focuses on the shine of your cousin's metal. That is pure stupidity. I'm not going to make you rich quick. That's the talk of charlatans who want your last cent. I'm going to teach you to shield your wealth so that time, and not your boss, works for you. The first pillar is aggressive defense. This works because it is easier to avoid stupidity than to seek brilliance. You don't need to be a stock analysis genius to get rich. You just need to not be an idiot who spends more than they earn. Live 2 steps below your salary. If you earn $2,000, learn to live as if you earned $1,500. The difference is your passport to freedom. Think of Japan after World War II. The country was in ruins. Literally, what did they do? They didn't start spending what they didn't have. They saved absurd rates of their income, reinvested in infrastructure and education, and in a few decades became the second largest economy in the world. They played defense. They accepted the pain of the present to guarantee the glory of the future. You need to do the same in your household economy. If you can't control the impulse to buy a $5 coffee every day, you will never have control over $1 million. Let's look at the math of aggressive defense. If you save $500 a month and your colleague spends that same $500, the difference between you in 10 years, considering a conservative return, is over $100,000. But it's not just about the money. It's about security. If you both lose your jobs, your colleague is in ruins in 15 days. He'll have to beg. He'll have to humiliate himself in front of bank managers. You have $100,000. You have time. Time is the most expensive resource in the world, and you are throwing it in the trash every time you buy something useless. In year 1, your defense gives you $6,000. That is your emergency fund, your peace of mind. By year 5, you have $35,000. That is bargaining power. By year 10, with $100,000, you no longer take insults from the boss. You begin to own your own destiny. The second pillar is survivor automation. The human brain is terrible at making repetitive decisions. If every month you have to decide between investing or paying a bill you created on impulse, you will fail. Pay yourself first. Before you pay the electric bill, before you buy groceries, Before you give money to the government, invest 10%. If the money never passes through your hands, you don't feel the pain of losing it. It's the strategy of the personal tithe. In the 19th century, the great industrialists knew this. They created internal pension funds, where the deduction was direct from the source, because they knew the worker, no matter how honest, would spend it all if they had access to the raw cash. You must be your own authoritarian boss in this regard. Imagine you set your bank to withdraw $300 the day your paycheck hits. In the first month, you'll miss it. You'll look at the store and think you can't buy that better cut of meat. You'll feel a slight discomfort, a tightening of the belt. By the third month, you won't even remember that money existed. You've adapted. Human beings are creatures of adaptation. The problem is that you adapt to luxuries you can't maintain, instead of adapting to a frugality that will set you free. Look at the example of Ronald Reed, the janitor who died with $8 million. He didn't have a high salary. He didn't win the lottery. He just never stopped investing and never let the money reach his account for superfluous spending. He automated his discipline. If you do this, in the first year you will have saved $3,600 without even noticing. By year 20, this automation, boosted by interest, will have transformed into an amount that generates a monthly income greater than your current salary. You will have created a machine that prints money while you sleep. The third pillar is the Lollapalooza of compound interest. This is the most powerful force in the financial universe and the most ignored by the impassioned. The first rule of compound interest is, never interrupt the process unnecessarily. The secret isn't miraculous returns, it's time. A low salary invested for 30 years beats a high salary invested for 5. Think of Benjamin Franklin's donation to the cities of Boston and Philadelphia. He left $5,000 to each, with the condition that the money could only be touched after 100 years, and the remainder after 200 years. The result? Millions of dollars accumulated from an insignificant amount, simply because time was allowed to work without the interference of human greed. Imagine a snowball at the top of a mountain. At first, you push it and it barely seems to grow. You put in a massive effort and gain only a few inches in diameter. You sweat, your arms ache, and you think about quitting because it doesn't seem worth it. But as it rolls down, the surface of the ball increases, and with every turn, it collects more snow than the turn before. Halfway down the mountain, it's already a force of nature that no one can stop. If you stop the ball to see how much it grew, you kill the momentum. If you take a piece of the snow to buy a treat, you catastrophically reduce the final potential. Let's walk through the equation year by year so you understand the gap between what you do and what you should do. Say you start with $1,000 and contribute $500 every month at a rate of 1% per month. In year 1, you have $7,300. The interest was only $300. You feel like an idiot. By year 5, you have $42,000. The interest now accounts for $10,000 of the total. It's starting to get interesting. By year 10, you have $106,000. Interest is now nearly half of what you have. Now you're the smart guy in the group. By year 20, the magic happens. You have $349,000. By year 30, you have $1.5 million. Look closely. Between year 20 and year 30, you earned more than $1 million without making any additional effort, just by waiting. But most of you withdraw the money in year 5 to make a down payment on a car. You kill the hen before she starts laying golden eggs. This is financial suicide through impatience. The error of impatience is trying to leverage the little you have on bets or shady schemes and losing the principal. It's the guy who joins financial pyramids or tries day trading without knowing what a balance sheet is. He wants to shorten 30 years into 3 months and ends up in the graveyard of the broke. The error of envy is financing a new car because a cousin bought one, destroying 10 years of contributions. The error of arrogance is thinking you're smart enough to predict the market instead of just buying and waiting. The financial market is a machine that transfers money from the impatient to the patient. If you try to be smarter than the average without having the necessary temperament, you will be crushed. Remember the dot-com bubble in the year 2000? People throwing money at companies that had no profit just because the price was going up. They thought they were geniuses. When reality knocked on the door, the abyss swallowed the savings of a lifetime. They didn't have a solid base. They only had hope and greed. Getting rich on a low salary is a test of temperament, not IQ. It's about being the tortoise in a world of anxious rabbits. The world is full of educated idiots who earn a lot and die poor. Don't be one of them. Most doctors and lawyers I know are 2 months away from total bankruptcy if they stop working. They have the flow, but they don't have the stock. They have the appearance, but they don't have the substance. They live in a shallow trench that any crisis rain turns into a mud pit. You, with your modest salary, can build a castle if you have the discipline of a monk and the patience of a stone. Accept the boredom. Real investing is boring. It's like watching grass grow or paint dry. If you're having fun with your investments, you're probably gambling, not investing. The secret of wealth is accepting the monotony of constant contributions and persistent frugality. Look at the finitude of time. You don't have 1,000 years to live. Every year you spend being a financial idiot is a year of freedom you steal from your older self. That 70-year-old man who will be you in the future is counting on the decisions you make today. If you spend everything now, you are condemning that elderly man to a life of misery, dependency, and humiliation. This isn't just a financial error, it's a moral failure. You have a duty to be a good steward of your resources. Don't let the desire to impress strangers at the mall destroy the peace of your old age. Be boring. Be patient. Let others show off now with their shiny debts, while you silently build what no one can take from you 20 years from now. True wealth is the ability to wake up in the morning and decide what to do with your day. That isn't bought with a raise. It's built with years of denial and discipline. When you get there, and you will get there if you follow the plan, you'll look back and see that most of the things you thought you needed were just noise. The silence of financial independence is much more satisfying than the noise of a financed luxury engine. Don't be the idiot who bleeds to maintain a mask. Take off the mask, get down into the trench, and start digging the path to your freedom, one brick at a time, 1 month at a time, without ever interrupting the process for a passing temptation. The abyss is right there for the careless, but the mountain peak is reserved for those who know how to walk slowly.